Hi, everyone. This is what is it? It's the Healthcare Professionals Appreciation Panel. Bit of a tongue twister, which is a little bit weird, a topic for Doctor Who convention, but as anyone would agree, incredibly timely. We are here at Console Room 2022, Satellite 9, and as a disclaimer, I should say we are recording this at on January the 2nd. It is actually not being recorded live at the con. So just in case things may have changed with the pandemic by the time you hear this, that's why. I think it's probably time we should probably introduce ourselves and say why we're actually here. I'm Chris Coulter. I am a family medicine trained physician who I'm currently doing urgent care. I've been doing it about 10 years with Northwest Family Physicians. Um, yeah, I'm kind of in the thick of it right now. Um, and our other participant is.
Nope. Hi, I'm Justine Maston. She, her. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, as well as a yoga teacher, podcaster, and writer. I'm here in my capacity today as a therapist. I've been in private practice about 7 years now, and the pandemic has been a heck of a time to be a therapist and a therapy educator because I'm teaching all the new coming up therapists how to do therapy over Zoom and work with a cultural trauma that is in progress. So, looking forward to talking about this today, and I think it makes total sense to talk about this at a Doctor Who convention. I mean, the Doctor travels through time and space, and he's encountering all kinds of moments of cultural trauma.
So this would be one of those moments where he really doesn't want to come here, but the TARDIS decides he has to come here. And so, yeah, right? Right?
Yep.
The heck with 2020. Haha, you're going there anyway. Um, uh, actually, I'm not sure how this panel came to be. I had the sneaking suspicion it might have been suggested by my husband last
Oh,
year.
okay. Okay.
And
I figured you
apparently,
suggested it because I didn't suggest it.
yeah, I know. I don't remember suggesting it, although, it's been such a hectic couple of years that, maybe I'm just not remembering.
Sure.
But no, I could totally believe that he would kind of stick that in there to try to encourage me to participate more because he does that.
Hmm.
But last year, I think it was just me who indicated any possible interest, and I didn't want to do it by myself. So thank you so much for joining this year so that we can actually have a conversation instead of a presentation.
Yeah, monologue. Yeah.
Monologue, yeah. Which I can do. I run off with the mouth at my patients all the time, but
Yeah,
I don't
same.
think it would not be panel worthy stuff. Um, what should we talk about first? I certainly think we probably have plenty of discussion just on what we've been through.
Yeah, for sure.
Has it really only been 20, 21 months, something like that,
Yeah.
since all this started? Oh
Hmm.
my God. Yeah. Which one of us should go first on that?
I'm happy to go. So, um, oh, geez, I don't want to tell a whole story, but that's kind of how my brain makes sense of things. Um,
Are
it,
you thinking of writing a book? I'm thinking maybe I should write a book. I don't know if anyone wants to read it, but I should probably write it.
yes, I've thought about it. It would be a little ways off. I've got some other ones in the hopper. I have too many projects. That's one of my problems. Um, yeah, so when COVID started coming down the pipeline, I pretty early on was like, okay, well, I need to go to telehealth because I have severe asthma. Um, and I've been doing telehealth for the better part of 2 years now, which I never thought I would dig on, but I actually really like it. Um, who knew? As a severe asthmatic, I'm used to having bronchitis at least once a year. And for 2 years, I've been healthy. I just had a bout of a sinus infection because I re entered society. I think
Oh
I'm
no.
meant to live in isolation. Like, Luke Skywalker on an island. Bonus porgs. Um,
Yes. No, green milk. It was green milk. Yes.
no thanks. Keep
Nothing.
it dairy. Um, but um, but it's been very stressful. I don't need to tell any of you friends at home and at the con how stressful this has been. But just to give you a peek behind the curtain of how it's been for your therapist, it's not unusual for us as therapists to be going through something similar that our clients are. It is unusual for us as therapists to be going through exactly the same thing at the exact same time that our clients are, such as a a cultural trauma or a natural disaster. You know, these things happen, but they're very rare. This has been 2 full years of it. And in the beginning, it was really hard for me because I'm used to, you know, at 10 o'clock, I've got folks with marital issues. At 11 o'clock, I've got, somebody who's feeling depressed. At noon, I've got, someone who's feeling anxious. Like it's all this different stuff all day. For the first 6 months, and I mean, it still happens, but for the first 6 months, I had the same conversation all day, every day. And it was very hard. One of the styles of therapy I do is called internal family systems. And they call the therapist a hope merchant. And I was having a real hard time selling hope out of my little basket for those first 6 months. So I was able to find my footing, doing much better now. And please, nobody feel like they need to take care of me. I can take care of myself. I have my own support system. But just to give you an idea, it was rough that first 6 months, especially. And then until we got the vaccine, it was really hard talking to people about how isolated they were. Yeah. How about for you?
Definitely. Oh, where to start?
Hmm.
I started, because I've been meaning to do this anyway. I started
Hmm.
looking back, just at my work emails.
Hmm.
That's kind of how I prepped.
Hmm.
And starting at about March 2nd is when I had the first mention of coronavirus by, I think it was our supply buyer person.
Hmm.
And then after that, almost every day, just this huge slew of very, very, very important, urgent messages, usually changing something from the day before,
Hmm.
um, constantly changing protocols because we didn't know what was
Hmm.
going to happen next.
Right.
Um, so I guess I should explain. I work for a system of clinics that is quite small. We're
Hmm.
actually independently owned. The primary care providers own the clinic.
Oh, cool.
I'm just an employee. Yeah, I'm basically a hourly slash salaried employee.
Hmm.
So fortunately, I don't have to sit through a lot of board meetings. And I'm really glad I didn't have to sit through the board meetings this last couple of years. But we didn't have anything,
Hmm.
and we were not prioritized. So when the hospitals were starting to get all of their equipment, whatever there was of it, which was not enough.
Hmm.
I don't know how they managed to get anything at all the first few months, but for the first maybe couple of months, we had nothing.
Yeah.
We happened to have, we actually were doing okay on gloves. Like maybe they'd really just bought a whole ton of gloves,
Hmm.
and we had okay surgical masks for a little while. But then the only reason we had any isolation gowns was because a few of the primary care providers actually do colonoscopies on site, because some family practice people actually do that.
Hmm.
And so we quickly went through the entire stash of disposable isolation gowns, which I
Right.
don't know if you've ever tried to put one on, but they're not meant to be reworn. And we tried that. You take them off and they rip.
Right.
So we quickly found
They're meant
out
for one use.
they're meant for one use for a reason, but
Hmm.
that wasn't going to cut it. So um, one of the first things we realized is that we were going to have to scramble for supplies, like the entire world.
Hmm.
Pretty much was in the same boat. And actually, we were luckier than some states in Minnesota to have a little bit of organization at the state level. But like I said, we weren't the first priority. Of course, the ERs, the ICUs, the medicine wards in the hospitals, and to some extent nursing homes, they were the first priority for everything.
Right.
One thing that was kind of different for us is that we were thrown into testing quite early, kind of as a fluke. The state, in fact, I think the state website still exists where you can go look up where you can go get tested by region. And they put us up there like almost right away. They listed us as a place people would go. And we found out about it kind of indirectly, went, oh, really? Guess we better get ready to start testing people. Yeah. So as visits started to just plummet for almost everything else, we started getting people coming for testing, which was a kick in the butt. And I had to fly by the seat of my pants for several days. And then they would come out with a policy saying, oh, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And then a few days later, there would be another memo coming, oh, we decided that's not going to work, so we're going to do it this way. So basically, I decided I wasn't going to put anyone else at risk if I didn't have to, because no one had a vaccine. And frankly, I was paid more than my support staff, which is a skeleton staff when I'm on. I'm the after hours person. So basically, we have a front desk person. We have maybe 1 or 2 medical assistants. And if we're lucky, we have a lab and x-ray person. That's it. So the nice thing is I get to call the shots. So I could kind of determine the level of safety that we were going to try to have. So I tried to keep all exposed and potentially symptomatic people out of the clinic during that early period and as we headed into lockdown. So we did drive-up testing. We don't have drive-through testing because we're not that big, but we did drive-up testing. And at first I was just kind of running out into the front parking lot, trying to find people's cars with an isolation gown. And at first I don't even think I had a face shield, but eventually got a face shield and an N95. That was a gift. And stabbing them in the nose, because that's, how you do the test. And then running back into the clinic and trying not to touch the doors. And so kicking the doors open with my foot. So it was quite a hoot. So we quickly pivoted and decided we'd start bringing them up to the back entrance where they could park. And then a little bit after that, we got a baby monitor so that we could set that up in the break room window and aim it just right so that you could see all 3 reserved parking spots to have people drive up at. And then at least you didn't have to walk as far to go out and stab them in the nose. So it was things like that, just totally. And then they ended up formalizing that because it worked. But I had to invent it because and it turns out almost everyone ended up doing similar stuff everywhere. Yeah.
But this stuff
So it was kind of
exist.
exhilarating. It was exhilarating and also exasperating and terrifying because I have multiple risk factors myself. And so I didn't want to get this thing. Fortunately, we didn't have any N95s, none. What I had to begin with was a small 3M cup respirator that I think was probably 10 years old that I'd gotten fit tested for in residency when I was like 30 pounds less heavy. So it didn't really ideally fit me, but it's what I had. So I used it. And then I was gifted a mostly full box of medium N95s of the same brand, which do fit me. And I rotated the heck out of those for probably the better part of a year.
Oh, wow.
So each I think 5 or 6 at a time. So I first started with 2, and then I figured, yeah, they're still going to be virus ridden. I'd better set a few more up. So each day I'd take one, and then I'd put it back in its paper bag, carefully wrapped in some paper towels. And then I'd rotate to number 2, and then I'd rotate to number 3. And usually I was only working, 3 to 5 days a week. So it was usually at least a week before I go back. But everyone was doing this.
Yeah.
In the hospitals, they would give you one at a time. And you'd hear these stories. They would have to wear it till it fell apart. Well, you would get the virus particles all over the outside. So that didn't sound very good to me. I actually had it better because I could choose my poison. So in a way, I felt blessed that I kind of was in control of my own destiny, sort of. I don't know if you had any financial concerns or if your business really picked up, but ours was in trouble
Mm,
as an organization, as many doctors' offices went under
yeah.
because people stopped coming because they were terrified. And the ones who did come, I kind of wondered what was up with them emotionally because it's like, you shouldn't be here for a hangnail, honey, that this is not good.
Right. Well, and I felt a little bit like a jerk for a while there because the therapy world exploded. I mean, I already had a
Yeah.
full caseload. Um,
Wow.
but when, when the pandemic hit, my caseload was full, and people who had closed out with me wanted to come back, and I've got a
Oh boy.
pre-licensed therapist working under me, and she filled up, and we're both scrambling for,
Wow.
who to refer out to. And so, I felt kind of, parts of me felt bad because, lots of people were really struggling financially, and they're like, "Oh, how's your business?" I'm like, "I've never been busier." And I
Wow.
wasn't happy about it because it meant people were struggling. So it was a really strange space to be in where I'm like, "Yeah, my business is thriving because
Wow.
people are struggling." And that
Oh,
feels bad.
we started to feel a little bit like that later when the testing and the sickness started to pick up.
Hmm.
Um, until the normal stuff started coming back, but that took better part of a year
Hmm.
for normal stuff to start coming back into us.
Yeah.
People stayed away unless okay, if their arm is just bleeding, okay, come in and get stitches because you can't
Hmm.
do that over telemed. Speaking of which,
Right.
it was took a little bit for us to get going, but I think within a couple of months we were well up with telemed,
Hmm.
and that's not something you usually do in urgent care. I had never done that before.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I can't imagine what you would do. You're like, show me where you cut yourself with the knife.
yes, rashes actually do pretty well,
Oh,
um,
sure. Yeah,
and
you get the
um,
visual.
and yeah, and unless you actually need to listen to lungs or look in ears, sinus infections can be done pretty well
Hmm.
as a virtual
Yep, I
visit.
got mine diagnosed over telehealth.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's not like I can. There's a magic tricorder that I can diagnose your bacterial infection in your sinuses with. It's all by history, pretty much,
Hmm.
um, and ruling other things out if you have to.
Hmm.
So, and ears don't work. That doesn't work either. So lungs and ears really do not work.
Hmm.
Rashes work pretty well, and mental health works reasonably well,
Hmm.
assuming you had a video connection. You really do want to see. I'll get your input on this, but I find I really need to see their psychokinetics. I need to see their body language. I
Hmm.
want to see what are they looking down and speaking in a monotone, or are they looking me in the face with animation in their face? So I'm looking for more basic stuff than you are,
Yeah.
but
Well,
that's
right,
what I'm
and
looking for.
most of my clients at this point are, they're long-term folks. They're folks I've been seeing for many years. And so I mean, I can tell how they're doing by hearing their voice, but it always helps to see the face, see like, hey, I can see visually, like, have you showered? Which is that's not a judgment, that's a diagnostic tool.
Exactly. Right. Right. There are a few things you don't pick up on,
Hmm.
like without smell-o-vision, you're not going to detect body odor. Like,
Right.
do they reek of marijuana or alcohol or something like that? You
Yeah.
do pick up on things like that
I
in
can pick
person.
up people having used recently pretty well.
Pretty well. Okay.
Just just from the just from the eyes.
And the coherence of what they're, yeah,
Hmm.
I get
Yep.
you there.
I'm like,
I get you
we
there.
see everything seems to have gotten pretty existential.
Yeah. Or as my medical assistants would say, okay, that dude on something. Yeah. Don't know what it is, but he on something. Um, we did suffer financially, or it
Hmm.
could have been very bad.
Sure.
Some of the staff suffered quite a bit because we saw the numbers going down, and the first people to be furloughed were the unneeded daytime urgent care staff.
Mm, sure.
We kept a skeleton evening, weekends only, 4 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday, from I think it was some point in April until late May. Or no, I'm sorry. Uh, Actually, no, I think it was actually beginning of April until almost July.
Oh,
I
wow.
stand corrected.
Yeah.
So we were getting, we had a wonderful HR person who was kind of helping us navigate that unemployment system
Mm-hmm.
because the rules changed so that it was a little bit more permissive. If you worked a little bit, you might actually get something. And if you got anything from the state, then you'd also get that $600 from the feds,
Mm-hmm.
which was huge for people with families. And I didn't do so well because I still made enough, according to their calculation, that I didn't really qualify for much, even
Right.
working 8 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually we got some bonus payments as a result of us winning some of that PPP loan money, because we actually
Mm-hmm.
qualify as a small business, and they were smart about how they
Oh, good.
went for
Yeah.
that. And they were in touch with a good bank, but they got lucky.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Lots of
So
people couldn't get in on the PPP. Yeah. Because the
yeah,
big
and that's
business,
why,
I'm not going to get up on
yeah,
my high horse about it, but
lots of
yeah.
small businesses didn't have access to the bank we did, I guess. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody did something right. And I know who those two people are. And thank you very much, because that's the reason that we still have a clinic, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was incredibly stressful. And we didn't, at the time, my husband works for the Hennepin County Library System
Mm-hmm.
as an associate librarian. And we didn't know if he was going to have a job because they shut
Sure.
down.
Yeah. Right. Of course.
They ended up pivoting to do a lot of stuff online, which was quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And after an initial period, they started to kind of do drop off and pick up books. It was
Mm-hmm.
very odd. Um, but we didn't know if we were going to have a paycheck of any extent.
Mm-hmm.
We got lucky, but it could have been a lot worse. So that was a
Yeah.
stress.
Yeah. Of course.
That was a
Yeah.
stress.
So my business was fine, and then my partner is in management in construction, and they stuff kept constructing. So
Stuff kept constructing.
commercial, not
Yes,
residential. Yeah. Yeah. So
indeed.
we were okay. We felt very fortunate. Um, and for a while, we were both working from home while his office was closed. And um, I've always known that he really projects when he talks, but I never put it together how much until I'm in here in my office talking to someone like, yeah, oh, this is really hard. Oh, wow, I really feel for you. And in the other room, I hear him being like, cranes! We need more cranes! I was like, oh my God. We had to have a conversation.
Oh God, that's great. Yeah, I think my spouse and I got on each other's nerves just a little bit, because we saw each other all the freaking time. I was in this weird hybrid existence. So for
Mm-hmm.
5 days a week, I was stay at home like everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
and then on the weekends, I was a frontline worker,
Right.
and that was so odd.
Mm-hmm.
And the traffic was great. Remember those days, right?
Yeah,
Way
that was
back
great.
when. Yeah. It took me like 7 minutes to get to work. It was really something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it was just surreal at work. It was either too quiet, and we wondered whether
Mm-hmm.
we were going to have a job, or else we were running around like crazy, mostly doing testing at the back door,
Right.
with the occasional person coming in for a sprained ankle or a bladder infection or
Mm-hmm.
a slip and fall or Lyme disease or whatever.
Right. Because life was still happening.
Life was still happening, and that took us kind of to end of May
Mm-hmm.
2020, and then George Floyd happened. And did that impact
Right.
you
Oh,
much?
oh, wow. There are no
Yeah.
words. I was in this conversation, I was so focused on the COVID, that part of me just sort of like tuned that out. But you know, earlier when I was talking about having the same conversation all day, every day, for a while it was COVID, and then for a while it was this horrific thing that happened in our backyard. And
Yeah.
I have clients who, live in the neighborhood, clients who were personally impacted in some way. And again, it was very hard to find the hope in
Yeah.
if, even myself in those moments, which, spoilers, friends who are watching this, like, your therapist is a person. And I,
Really?
yeah, yeah, we're not bots. Um, and I was very real with my clients, which is, I mean, what you are seeing right here, right now is what my clients see. I don't put on any kind of, therapist facade where suddenly I'm this different person. Like, I was like, yeah, this is really hard. This is really hard. We are all hurting.
Yeah.
And again, I was very clear to let my clients know they didn't need to worry about me. I've got my own supports. And also, yeah, I'm hurting too. This is really hard. We're all in this collective trauma together.
I found an email from the 29th, I think it was,
Hmm.
of May, where I was reaching out and trying to get advice if the unrest, the euphemism, if the unrest reached us, in that case it was Crystal. Did I have permission to shut the place down and let everybody go home?
Hmm.
Because for safety's sake, that's what I was going to do.
Right.
Um, so it became pretty clear within a few days that that was not going to be that bad.
Hmm.
Um, Although we did suddenly have to start filling a lot of prescriptions for people whose pharmacies were destroyed and their prescriptions with them.
Oh, yeah, for
And
sure. Hmm.
that got difficult, especially controlled substances. Good luck with that. It was
Oh,
hard.
yeah.
Those poor people. Yeah, and often their neighborhoods were destroyed too. It wasn't
Hmm.
just that; it was food shelves, it was grocery stores.
Hmm.
So for the fan community, they might have been worried about Uncle Hugo's, but the people I was dealing with, a lot of them, it was, I had to get transportation to come over here because I've been out of my blood pressure and diabetes meds for a week now. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I have a number of clients who lived in the uptown area, and, like, I can't get my meds from the post office. I can't get my meds from the, Walgreens. What do I do? Where do I go? I can't get anywhere.
it
For
affected
folks
us
who are already
another way.
isolated. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
It started to affect us in another way too. And
Hmm.
I felt very guilty. I'm really good at guilt, but I was feeling quite guilty um, that I wasn't participating in the protests
Oh,
uh,
Chris, I had that
because I was worried.
conversation so many times.
I figured I was not fit to be around that many other people because I
Hmm.
was I was too dangerous doing what I was doing.
Hmm.
And I fully expected that we were going to have a huge wave of transmission from
Hmm.
those protests, which in effect did not happen. Pleasingly enough, I don't remember maybe one or two
Hmm.
protesters out of hundreds that we tested that I knew that they were protesters
Hmm.
that actually came back positive, and that probably wasn't from any demonstrations they've been at.
Right. No,
That's masks and
luckily
being outside apparently
being
do work.
outside.
At least they
Hmm.
did. They did for that strain
Right.
of the COVID.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that was quite strange.
yeah, well, what's interesting is I had clients who were obviously nervous about participating because of COVID, but they were also nervous about participating due to social anxiety, other kinds of, their mental health stuff.
Mm,
And so
mm-hmm.
we had lots of conversations about how a, a demonstration or an uprising or a Fed uprising uh,
Yeah, yeah,
uh, is not just the front line. It's not just the folks marching in the street. Like, that's a part of it, of course.
of
But
course.
no, we know from fandom, it's not just, it's not just Katniss Everdeen that's making a difference, right? It's
Right.
it's the folks back at headquarters that are
Yeah,
writing up the propos. It's like there are different ways to be involved based on your skill set and your ability. And
right.
it's okay to not be feet marching. And
The best I
my,
could do was to support the people who were doing it, and I guess that
yeah.
that was going to have to be enough. And I finally did settle for that,
Hmm.
um, which made my family quite happy because they were quite afraid that if I did anything like that, well, first of all, I might get COVID, but also I might get shot in the eye or something because stuff
Right.
like that was happening.
Yeah, it was.
Ah, yeah.
Hmm.
But I felt very badly about it. I trained uh, on West Lake Street. That was our
Hmm.
residency location for the Hennepin County Family Medical Program. And so I was crushed to hear what happened.
Hmm. Yeah. But
Yeah,
this is really hard.
yeah,
And we're all still impacted by it.
yeah. Uh, Dante Wright um,
Hmm.
happened basically a brisk walk away from where I'm sitting right now, and I'm sitting in the clinic. In case you can't tell from the colon cancer poster, because I just finished work not too long ago. But if by a little bit of a detour, I drive right past that, and I did that for a while, and watched the memorial grow and watched people come and reverently reflect.
Hmm.
Um, and that was as close as I really got to any of that stuff physically.
Hmm.
Uh, but that's pretty darn close to where we are. This can happen anywhere.
Hmm.
So I really think it, and especially in the clinic I'm at right now, which is the one of the three that I work most often at, we have a very diverse clientele.
Hmm.
So if we are not culturally uh, conversant at the very least, and hopefully culturally intelligent, which takes a little more work,
Hmm.
then we're in trouble. Um, so many of the staff are of color.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of them live in like North Minneapolis. Not so many in that section of Minneapolis proper, but North Minneapolis, yes, which did take quite a brunt of violence
Hmm.
from both sides. And life for them, they were just trying to live their lives and try to get their kids daycare and eventually back to school because there was help for healthcare workers.
Hmm.
When other kids stay at home, the kids of my staff went to other locations so that their parents could stay working.
Yeah.
So they were dealing with normal life, so they didn't really have time for big philosophical conversations, or they didn't deign to share them with me.
Which
But
is
I
fine.
certainly I tried to speak more intelligently and to listen more
Hmm.
and to not make too many cultural assumptions. And I'm still working on that.
Hmm.
I'm just reading a question from Natasha.
Hmm.
Yes, that was a question I was going to ask. Thanks, Natasha. We'll come
Hmm.
back to that.
Yeah,
Um,
but it reminded me of something, Chris, when you mentioned the the kids of healthcare workers having supports. Um, in in the beginning times, when
all
when
time. Oh,
in the olden times when the frontline healthcare workers were really just overwhelmed,
mhm.
I participated in something called Project Parachute, which was
Cool.
offering free mental health services to
Awesome.
frontline workers. Um,
Yeah.
and even though I was full, I took somebody on to work with, and it for free, which I felt like that was what I could do,
Mm,
right? I can't go march because I need to be healthy and sitting here talking to people, but I can
sure.
add one more person who needs to talk, and I can do that pro bono. Um, but I think that mental health workers get left out of this conversation quite a lot when it comes to the frontline conversation. Um, because I take nothing away from folks who were literally physically in front of people and doing the work you were doing, because I don't have the skills, and I'm so glad you were able to do it. And who do those healthcare workers come and talk to after that terrible day?
If they have time, right, which often the
Right?
hospital people didn't, but hopefully they made time because they really, so
Hmm.
that's funny because I kind of, the way you're thinking about me is kind of how I think about the other folks who are actually dealing with the critically ill
Mm-hmm.
and actively dying and
Mm-hmm.
the intubations and the last discussions about final wishes
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I guilted myself out about that too. I actually I had a brief crazy instinct to volunteer to go to New York or Michigan
Oh,
back when everything was just
I
breaking.
have that come up every time there's something like this. I'm like, I need to go counsel those
Yeah,
people.
yeah. I mean, I did reach a moment of sanity in that
Yeah.
the ICU is not my forte,
Hmm.
shall we say. I did not enjoy my time in the hospital. I liked being in the clinic, but I figured, I could hold the iPad. Yeah, I know how to wear PPE.
Yeah.
I could help turn the patient over, and I probably wouldn't get tangled in the lines.
Yeah.
Um, and I suppose if things get bad here, I could still do that. But I actually, my dad made me promise um, not to do anything crazy.
Aw.
So I didn't do it. I didn't do it. We
Hmm.
did finally get the supplies situation sort of sorted. It took a long time to get N95s, and when we did, they weren't always the type that everybody could wear.
Hmm.
So it took a while to get a variety of different sizes and styles that would work for everybody. But we did finally start to get some, and we got our first donated gowns. I don't know who donated them, but they were these awful uh, blue stripe on pale yellow cloth, rewashable gowns.
Hmm.
But we were so grateful
Yeah.
that allowed us to start doing the volume of testing that we were sent. As we started to get sent more supplies to do the testing, the swabs and the collection media,
Hmm.
we started to get everything else together so that we could actually do that work. So it did kind of fall together after a fashion,
Hmm.
although there were fights a little bit back and forth as to are we even allowed to give surgical masks to patients who come without masks? Because we didn't
Right.
have enough of them to do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So we didn't actually have a mask mandate in our clinics until close to when, right before Governor Walz actually mandated that for indoor spaces in the state,
Hmm.
um, which I thought was really, really dangerous. But um, all you could do was kind of encourage people to bring their own masks, and that was a struggle. So what are
Hmm.
you going to do? Turn them away? No.
Right.
So and we did get some face shields, um, and gloves. We never had a huge problem with, although a lot of places did.
Hmm.
But they did have to kind of put their feet down after a while. It's like, no, you can't use gloves for every single freaking little thing. It's like try to stick to one pair per patient. And if you're not working with body fluid or directly involved in sampling
Hmm.
nasal or throat cavity or whatever, no, you can wash your hands like a normal human being. You don't have to wear gloves.
Right.
So that was interesting. Yeah, we had emails of all sorts with all sorts of this stuff,
Hmm.
um, like when to actually mandate that the staff all have to wear masks.
Right.
That took a couple of months. I mean, I started to do it as soon as things started looking like they were going south.
Hmm.
And all I was doing was rotating through surgical masks because I was guessing that was going to be a problem too. We were going to even run out of those. Um, and then I finally switched to N95s over the summer because I didn't think this was going to get better anytime soon. And I knew I had risk factors, and it didn't look like the vaccine was going to come along for a while.
Yeah. Oh, it's
So things started to look up for us over the summer.
yeah, it's so
Mm-hmm.
interesting to hear you talk about this and to think about where we are now. Because right before all of this happened, all the COVID stuff happened, I was at a training, and there was a physician in my small group at this training, and she was just very, like, just visibly anxious and telling us, like, it's gonna get bad, you don't
Yeah.
understand, like, we are sitting here when we're in our big group, 50 people in a room, you won't be able to do that anymore. And I remember
Right.
thinking to myself, what are you talking about? Like, that, it was one of those very privileged beliefs of, like, that can't happen to us. This is,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, this is America.
Yeah, I think our folks started having all the board meetings online or on
Hmm.
Zoom, basically. And we even had a few special meetings with that I was actually invited to also because we are going to talk about COVID stuff,
Hmm.
what we knew about treatment, about testing protocols, um, whether hydroxychloroquine was bunk or not,
Mm.
whether azithromycin was any use, when to consider using steroids. And at the second meeting, I'd found a paper that was about risk stratification in the outpatient setting.
Hmm.
So when a prediction rule given certain things that could actually be done in our office setting, that would help you predict what's the likelihood that this person is going to develop severe disease
Hmm.
quickly, or need hospitalization soon. So I presented that paper that I found online, and
Hmm.
it was stuff like that, and that was the weirdest thing.
Hmm.
So most people had a lot more Zoom meetings than I did, but to me that was kind of novel. The only other Zooming I was doing was family reunions. My extended family started doing
Sure. Yeah.
Zoom family reunions, which was a hoot because we're all over the country.
Hmm.
And and they started telling stories about their childhoods. It's like, oh my gosh, you did those things. Anyway, so that was just very, very strange,
Hmm.
because it wasn't safe to have us all in the conference room. We
Mm-mm.
thought, anyway.
No. Well,
Um,
and I would never, at this point, I wouldn't dream of being in a large space unmasked. Like, I'm going
no,
places, but, and this is me personally, this is not me telling anybody else what to do with their lives, but I wouldn't feel comfortable, going to a any kind of indoor space that was very populated without something on my face. I'd be like, I don't want to breathe your air. I'm an
right,
asthmatic. I don't know what you're breathing on me.
absolutely. Um, to think how naive we were
Right.
in March,
Mm-hmm.
uh, where we were told if you just say 6 feet apart, you're going to be fine. Well, in the average exam room, that is not easy.
Oh, sure.
So I was doing stuff like standing in the far corner and having the patient sit on the stool over
Mm-hmm.
by the sink or whatever. It's like, hi, we're going to social distance. How do you do? Welcome to urgent care.
Show me your
Um,
rash, but from over there.
how's your life changed lately? And then I would ask,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, right. Does it hurt when you pee or whatever? Um, it was so strange, but I certainly wouldn't do that without a mask now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not doing it without an N95 because it's too enclosed a space.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I could go into great detail about how I deal with people who aren't masking properly, but I've become a little bit of the mask police because I'm trying to keep everyone here as healthy as I can so that the clinic stays running,
Sure, of
which is a
course.
whole other conversation for the future because I think we're going to be running into problems very shortly when the surge really hits. That clinics are probably going to have to shut down for at least a few days at a time because we're going to lose too many staff to even mild illness for several days at a time.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Um,
that
we'll
feels like
see. We'll
a
see if I'm right.
yeah. Well, it feels like a perfect segue into the question Natasha asked, which
Yeah.
which was, we've done a lot to support the community. How can the community support us? Um, I it sounds like one of the things the community can do to support us would be to follow CDC guidelines and
Please. Okay. If you come in with a KN95 or an N95, great, but at least a decently fitting mask, and
Mhm.
on your mouth and nose, please. and don't pull it down to talk on your phone.
No chin
Simple
diapers.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I walk into the room, if they've had their mask off, I consider that room contaminated
Mm.
for quite a while. And so I've actually placed signs all over the place saying that that mask must stay on in this room, but still, it doesn't always work.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
Sure.
actually positioned them right in front of people's faces, like on the opposite wall from where their chair should be, if they take the usual chair that people sit in, right across from their noses, and they don't see it. So, we can only do what we can, but I really am trying to protect everyone who walks in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. And I mean,
Yeah.
I would say patience, please, with a CE, not a TS. Um, have
Yes.
patience because we really are, um, at least on the mental health side, completely overwhelmed with the number of people who are now looking for support. And I'm thrilled
Wow.
that people are reaching out for support. And I see people getting really frustrated because they aren't able to work with the person they want to work with. They're getting referrals, and those people are full. And we really are trying to only refer out to folks who have openings. But by the time we've given that to you, the status of that person's schedule might have changed. And so none of this is malicious. None of this is therapists trying to keep people out of therapy. Trust me, we if you want the help, we want to work with you. But
Yeah.
like I I'm full. I can't take anyone else. And people get so upset because they want to work with me specifically, and I'm like, I hear ya. Thank you. I appreciate that you just from my reputation alone trust me. And also,
Yes.
I I can't. I'm sorry. And that I'm not going to open up
Mm,
more times because then I will be depleted. Because
right.
even the amount that I'm working now, like, you can tell from looking at me. We talked about that visual assessment. Like, did I shower today? No, I didn't. Because it's my day off.
I'm not showering until I
And
get home because that's
I'm
my
missing a
decontamination
nail.
time.
It's like it's a mess.
Absolutely. Can you see the creases still? Yeah. Um, yeah. My N95 patina, um, the scrub cap
Mm-hmm.
hairdo. Oh,
Right?
yes. That's just, I actually have found that freeing now that you say that.
Mm-hmm.
There's really not much pressure to look good.
No, I mean
I
when
have an
y'all
excuse.
yeah, when y'all see me at the convention, I will be all put together and probably be wearing makeup, and I'll have nice eye makeup on the part of my face you can see. But that's not where I'm at today. And so patience and compassion. That's what I would invite
Mm.
from the populace. And literally a thank you goes further than you can possibly imagine.
It does. And we do get a lot of thanks. I
Hmm.
think people are okay. There are always going to be a few that if they wait more than 15 minutes or whatever, are like, oh my God, is the doctor ever? I've been here for 3 hours, man. Is the doctor ever going to come in? But there's a lot less of that, I think,
Hmm.
that I'm used to seeing. And I'm grateful for that. And sometimes some people, they might have waited 2 or 3 hours to see me. And they're people I happen to have seen before. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, I'm so glad it's you.
Oh.
Um, that means a lot.
Hmm. Yeah. It like I so appreciate my my clients. These are folks I've known for years, and I know they appreciate me. And it really is great when they take a moment and say, "Thanks so much. Thanks so
Yeah,
much for taking care of me. Don't forget to take care of
absolutely.
you," which they really do say.
Yes, I sometimes will get that too. It's like
Hmm.
I'll say, you stay safe out there, and they go,
Hmm.
oh, you too, doctor, you too. We worry about you. It's like, oh, thanks.
Right? They want to make sure we're okay too.
And then I'll
Um,
ask, have you had your vaccines and did you get your booster? Speaking of what the other thing they can do to help us out, um, try to be willing to listen
Mm-hmm.
and we should be willing to listen to, which
Mm-hmm.
sometimes gets a little hard, because we're stressed and it's been tiring,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't quite understand where you're coming from if you don't want to take this miraculous vaccine that
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
will change the course of this for us eventually. Um, so I have to remind myself to have compassion and patience also.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and try to see the world from the other person's standpoint as much as I can. So I'm
Sure.
still working on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I don't want to go too far down this road because we only have a few minutes left, but it new things are scary, and we there's so much unknown, and I that's how I can find that compassion, is just remembering like how scary it is to not know things, and how to be unsure, and sometimes our fear pushes us in a direction, and if we don't
Yes.
have if we don't feel like we have a wise guide, you know like the doctor saying like the this is safe, you're going to be okay, I can see the future, this is what's going to be the thing, um and if they have other guides, I don't know, maybe the master, telling them
Yeah.
I've seen
The
the future and
masters
it's
through
like
the internet.
this.
Yes, 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 yes.
Then I
You
get
will obey me. Um, is there anything that's made you kind of feel thankful for what you've done? What the career choice that you've made uh, during this time? Is there anything that's kind of strengthened your decision to do what you're doing?
um
Is
what
there anything that isn't all bad about
uh,
what has happened?
I mean, I would say that the pandemic is all bad, but there have been some positive things that have come out of the forced slowing down. And so some of the positives that have come out of the forced slowing down is, both for me and my clients, really reflecting on what matters, what's important, what do I want life to look like. Um, and what I have discovered during this time is something that I had guessed, but now I know for sure, is that, you know, my my future, like long-term future, is in writing and education of other
Mm.
therapists. I love working person to person. I do it very well. I I'm very successful at it, and also I get a lot of fulfillment from training these up and coming therapists. I've got a new class coming in to see me on Tuesday. 27 students. So that's 27 new therapists I'm going to help train. And
Wow. Is that all virtual?
it is all virtual.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is
Um,
that more of a challenge, do you think? Or
I haven't taught a class in person yet.
ah,
So I don't know.
okay.
I think it might be more challenging to teach in person because I'll
Uh-huh.
be like, how does this thing work? I know how to Zoom, but how do you use the overhead projector? I'm old.
Ah, I remember what those look like. Yeah, I'm old. Absolutely. Um,
How about for you?
I guess this period has been kind of a focus. I mean, if there's anything that I trained for, it's something like this, where this everything becomes part of a crucible,
Mm-hmm.
and the unimportant stuff burns away, and what's left is what is, like you said, what is truly important,
Mm-hmm.
um, which can literally mean life or death. And I have to keep reminding myself that um, that's what I'm really in it about, as well as long-term health. Um, and that includes emotional
Mm-hmm.
and mental health effects from how this has impacted everyone. physical concerns from delays in care, which can be quite gratifying when people come back to care. And sometimes they do that through me because they realize, oh, yeah, my blood pressure actually is sky high, and maybe I should do something about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they haven't established with anyone yet. So they come in to see me. It's like, well, we'll restart the meds, but then you're going to have to actually establish with somebody, which you may never have done before.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my role in some respects. First, to treat the acute issue, but also as a gateway to try to get people to be doing what they hopefully should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, and I guess in a superficial sense, it was kind of interesting to be considered a hero for a few weeks there. That was very odd, but
Did
got
people
me
bang
a
pots
few.
for you?
No, they didn't bang pots, but what I did get a few free drinks at the Holiday Station, and I think it was at McDonald's. I was offering like free small meal or like free French fries or
Mm-hmm.
something. I confess I did flash my badge and get a few of those things because
Good for you. If
sure.
I had a badge, I would have flashed it.
Um, yeah, totally.
I have no
And it
badge.
was always funny. It's like they just kind of take a half a glance, like, yeah, that's fine. So that was kind of funny. Um, that's kind of faded a little bit now. I mean, it's coming back a little bit now that people are a little bit scared again.
Yeah.
Don't bite the hand that feeds you. If you really end up needing medical care, be good to your nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, you might be polite to the doctor, but you really need to be good to your nurse. That is the person who is going to have control over your care.
Mm-hmm.
So just a little tip for you all out there. Be very good to the nurse and to
Always
the
good
janitor and to the dietary people because they control your fate,
advice.
basically. Um, and it's forced me to feel grateful for the things that I still have remaining.
Mm-hmm.
I have not lost anyone in my immediate family
Mm.
to COVID or to any of the things around the pandemic. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Although we did lose a very close family friend a little over a year ago, which caused my father a great deal of difficulty. But I guess what in the end doesn't destroy us does make us somewhat stronger. And I found that wow, this little organization can pivot quite effectively.
Mm-hmm.
I've been really impressed at some of the things they've been able to do with very little notice.
Yeah.
And if we can do it, any of those places out there can do it because we're pretty small beings.
Mm-hmm.
We became a vaccination center pretty early on. We felt really awesome about that.
Yeah.
And we didn't do the kind of numbers that you might do at like the convention center or Mall of America or whatever, but we actually had people lined up and we had the whole lobby taken up, and where you take your paper and you go over here and they'll send you over there and they'll read you the consent form, and then you have to go sit in the chairs over there. So it's kind of a miniature auditorium setting. We did that too, and I wasn't directly involved in that, but that was awesome.
Yeah.
And that's when I think things did start to change a little bit emotionally, I think, with the vaccines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this is nice. I feel like, we're coming to a close, and it's nice that we're closing on sort of an upswing in the, little bit lighter stuff in the conversation. It's always hard to leave people with the gloomy doomies.
I think I I think we might have a couple hard months, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe a month, 6 weeks that are going to be quite rough.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I think that is going to happen. But then I think things really will start to look up. Um, Maybe not completely normal, but they're going to start looking up. And I'm looking forward to participating more fully in the fandom community,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been so isolated that I really haven't felt like I fully have been participating, even though I have partaken of the virtual conventions. And I'm so grateful that that has been an option.
Mm-hmm.
Like Console Room last year was really good. They did a bang up job of pulling things together with the Discord, and the virtual panels
Mm-hmm.
and the live streamed panels. It was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad they tried it. I'm glad people can get together in person, but I'm glad they tried it. And if we have to do it again, now we know how to do it.
Yeah. Well, where can folks find you on social media or in the real world if you want them to find you in the real world?
Yeah, well, you can't make an appointment with me because I'm just urgent care, but
Hmm.
I'm here at Northwest Family Clinics, after hours urgent care. And I do have a certain presence on Facebook, which is another blessing because I never used to. But at the beginning of the pandemic, I decided, yeah, maybe I should try this. And now I am in touch with several hundred people, which is awesome. And most of them are geeks. And they're the greatest people in the world.
Hmm.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So yeah, mostly on Facebook. I'm afraid I don't have much to do with Twitter. And I don't have a web page. I'm so lame.
Oh,
How can we find you?
there's no lameness here. Um, and reminder, if you're watching us, you know that the console room is a hybrid. Um, so I know, so we can have a little bit of both. Um,
That's right.
you can see me in person at Console Room. I'm on a whole mess of panels that I don't know in what order they will be appearing, so look for me on your schedule. And if you want to find me on social media, you can find me at Mind Body Fandom on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter because I take a holistic approach to healing mind, body, and fandom.
And with that, we will wrap up. Thank you very much for attending Console Room 22, Satellite 9.